let's start today with UJ. This is again from a majority of votes. Alright, so current price is in this zone. Oops, let's go back to H4 for H4, and it's in this zone right here, and engulfing buy. That failed, price came back, tapped, created this first engulfing sell, second engulfing sell, and now it's just kind of traveling within this zone. Unless it breaks this zone, then it will test this zone above, or if it still respects this zone, then potentially we can see the drop up into this zone or down into this zone, sorry, for a better buy. Alright, so what can UJ do? Let's screenshot that real quick. Just for you to be careful, today we'll be having a high impact news on USD pairs, I believe. Let me just check real quick. If you don't know where to check, please do go to forexfactory.com. So we will be having USD news in approximately 6 hours. Alright, so UJ might not move until then. If it doesn't move, then you know why. But if it does, then it might be getting ready for that volume of correction, or volume for continuing in that direction for USD pairs. Okay, so if UJ still decides to respect this zone, and if it retraces back into our key level, potentially we can still find a sell back down. If it does not retrace and you are not a low risk trader, then you can find continuation setups as it drops into this zone. All right, but for me, I don't like to be too stressed, so I will just wait in my key levels. If it doesn't reach, then that is just no trade for me for the whole day. Okay, so if it decides to just drop into our buy zone, our below, and respects that, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. Vice versa, right? If it decides to break our zone, this current zone that it is kind of jumping around in, then potentially we can see or wait for the next sell zone for a potential sell setup where we can sell down. But if it decides to break the zone and not shoot up into the sell zone in one go, then potentially we can just wait for the retracement for a better buy up in the key level itself. Okay, so that's for UJ. Where to monitor for entry? Again, M5 or M15 for entry. Now, I'm gonna keep repeating this. If you are a low risk trader, conservative trader, if you don't like to be stressed and not wanting to be on the charts all the time, not worry about losing your money, wait for H4 to close first. Then you can see if you can find a setup in those key levels that I told you. But if you have a higher risk appetite, you don't mind losing some of your capital for that potential gain because it might not retrace, then while the H4 is still traveling, you can find a continuation setup. Same thing, you still find the setups that I've taught you, whether it be EG, EF, EG, or ABC, those things as a continuation setup if you have a higher risk appetite. But if you are a low risk trader, do not risk your money, okay, in the black zone. We don't want that. All right, so either you can just wait in the key level itself, or wait for H4 to close and see if you can find a setup in those zones before you press anything. Okay, again, this is completely up to you, your account, you manage it. All of your responsibility lies in your hands. Okay, so you have to manage those accordingly. Now, next pair we have EJ. The reason I also picked JPY pairs, despite it being majority of what you guys voted, JPY pairs actually move quite a bit, and it moves quite fast, and it also reacts to the high impact news that are seen. So it can spike up, drop down very, very fast, and it can travel very far. So if you are a big pip trader, JPY pairs, I feel, is the way to go if you are into currency pairs, because like I've told you before, I have a love-hate relationship with GJ. Oh, but GJ, once you get it right, you can hold for 150 pips, 250 pips, as long as it keeps breaking the zone and respecting those zones that you've drawn. Okay, so that's just another tips and tricks that I've learned throughout my experience. If you want to try it out, just back test it and see if it is meant for you or if it's your style. Now EJ, sell zone up here and engulfing buy that failed. Price came back, tested in the key level, but did not create any engulfing sell. And now the current price is just hovering right above the key level. Now, mind you that we also have an engulfing sell over here. Okay, we have an engulfing sell. So if EJ still decides to climb, just keep in mind that it might want to test this engulfing sell, and if it still respects it, it could leave a wick here and then respect this engulfing fail before dropping. Okay, these are the potentials. Or if it decides to break, just break above the tiny bit and you can still see it drop, we have an engulfing sell over here. Okay, so if you want to mark this engulfing sell and find its key level also, which would be such a good practice, do it and see how it reacts to those zones. Okay, for me, I like to stick to my engulfing fails. If it breaks, simply no trade for me. I'll just wait for the next upper zone. I'm not going to take this engulfing sell. But if it doesn't, then I will just wait for it to retrace back into the key level, break down a little, potentially find an EFEG, and then the second EG in either M5 or M15, M1 if I want to get a more precise entry before I press anything for a sell down. Okay, and for our buy zone, engulfing sell that broke, price came back, tested once, twice in the key level, but did not create any engulfing buys yet within the zone. Okay, so let's screenshot this. What can EJ do, if it still respects our sell zone, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. If it breaks above, just see if it will break this engulfing sell high. If it does, then it might want to test a higher area. If it doesn't, it can just play around these two zones. All right, so if it does break both of the zones, then we have a higher potential of it testing a higher zone, because this will be the last defense of the sellers. Okay, so you can either shoot up in one go or trace back into the key level for a better buy up. And it can also just drop down into our buy zone, respect it for a potential buy setup for us to buy back up, or if it decides to break below, then it might want to test a lower area. Okay, SL, again, once you enter, count your SL at 40 pips. All right, so please divide up your lot sizes. Your lot sizes will determine how much you're willing to lose in that setup and the SL. Right, so the bigger the SL, the more money you can lose. So if you know that, you have to lessen down your lot sizes and divide them up so you can have smaller entries but multiple entries for you to have in case you float. So if you float and you can still enter more in those limits that you have, then when it start running in blue, you will be in more profit than just putting it in one go. Okay, so 40 pips from entry. And last but not least, I had to do this 3 times because I don't understand. I think something is wrong with my iPad. I will get it checked. It keeps not, when I try to upload the first 2, it just keeps on bouncing off and jumping off. I think I have a bug, but we will see. Current prices here. We have a sell zone up here and a buy zone down here. Our buy zone engulfing sell that failed has yet to be tested after the fail, so quite a fresh engulfing failed zone. Then we have our sell zone up here, engulfing buy that failed, in the process of failing, or did fail first. Okay, it failed right here, price came back, created this first engulfing sell, then we have the second engulfing sell, so now you have your ABC for the sell zone. Okay, current prices here. What can AU do? Now AU, remember that we do have a USD news in approximately 6 hours, so check Forex Factory for that. If AU decides to drop down into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can find a buy setup, in M5 or M15. If you can't find any M5 or M15, then you know the buyers aren't doing their job. So there is a likely chance, a higher chance that it might break. Okay? That's just, you kind of have to think of it a certain a certain way, because if it does create a buy setup, then you know that the buyers are trying to push the price back up. So it's worth risking some of your capital. But if you can't find any of the setups, then why would you enter? All right? So keep that in mind. Now, if H4 decides to break down below, closing below the zone, it might want to test a lower area. Vice versa, you can also just shoot up if it gets enough volume from the news and the US session opening in a few hours. If it decides to shoot up into our sell zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. But if it breaks above, then it might want to test a higher area. Where to TP? Again, TPs are very subjective, right? So pick a TP point or TP points that you're comfortable with. Feels easy for you, feels like there is no stress. When you get to that certain point, you are more confident in your setup that could reach that how many pips, then you can increase it, right? Increase for growth. So don't try to jump like, oh my God, you know what? I'm going to enter this and I'm going to hold for 100 pips because Mr. Cloud did it, or something like that. Or Lara Summer setups, when she updated it, you hit 60 pips. I'm going to hold for 60 pips. No. If you yourself cannot mentally and emotionally hold for 60 pips, lessen it down or break it down. Okay? Start with 20. Go to 40. Go to 60. You can even do 20, 40, 60 for TP1, TP2, TP3. So find a TP point that you are comfortable with so you can hold for longer. Once you get confident in those, then you can slowly increase it. Okay? So that's for all the 3 pairs. Continue mapping. If you want me to check, just send them over and I will check it as we go. Other than that, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.